Ok, clase, para este video, el sujeto es sobre los verbos irregulares en el pretérito. Okay? Now, I know that just as a quick repaso or review, you'll already know that irregular verbs do not follow the normal rules of conjugation in the preterite tense. These verbs are irregular in the preterite. And so let's look at some of these verbs, okay? You already know some of these. You already know ir, which means to go, and how it's conjugated, but just as a clarifying just section of this is how you would conjugate it. Fui, fuiste, fue, fuimos, and fueron, which means I went, you went, he or she went, we went, and they went. And I'm just going to, spoiler alert, this video is going to go fairly quickly because it's really just conjugating irregular verbs in the preterite tense. So pause the video if you need to make sure you get all of these down. Some of these you already have in your notes, though, if you don't want to recopy them. Ser, to be. So to conjugate this in the preterite tense, spoiler alert again, it's the same, which you should already know, but fui, I was, you were, he or she was, we were, and they were. Okay, so notice ir and ser have the same endings. Did you notice that? Even though they mean different things, they have the same endings. Y'all already know this, but again, it's just a reminder as we go into the rest of the irregular verbs in the preterite tense. We're focusing on preterite right now, okay? We're not focusing on present, just preterite. So you have ir and ser, again, means to go and to be. So just so you can see them side by side, again, fui, fuiste, fue, fuimos, fueron could mean I went or I was, you went or you were, and vice versa. They have the same conjugaciones. All right, let's move on to some other verbs. We have dar, which means to give. This is how you would conjugate it. Di, I gave. Diste, you gave. Dio, he or she gave. Dimos, we gave. And dieron, they gave. Pause the video if you need to for more tiempo. You have ver, which means to see in the present. In the preterite, the past tense. It would be vi, I saw. Viste, you saw. Vio, he or she saw. Vimos, we saw. And vieron, they saw. Moving on. Notice this. Did you notice that dar and ver have the same endings? They are only different by one letter. Okay, so the only letter that's different when you conjugate these two verbs in the preterite tense is the V and the D. Good to know. Okay, hacer, to make or to do. Let's conjugate this in the preterite. Hice, not hice, okay? Hice, the H is silent. Hice, hice. Y'all practice saying it. Hiciste. Hizo, notice this one has a Z. Specific reason for that. Hicimos and hicieron. Practice saying these. Hice, hiciste, hizo, hicimos, hicieron. I made or I did. You made or you did. He or she made or he or she did. We made, we did. They made, they did. Another one, venir, which means to come. In the preterite tense, vine, I came. That's not vine. Vine. Or if you pronounce the V like a B, viniste or viniste, you came. Vino, he or she came. Vinimos, we came. And vinieron, they came. Okay? Querer, to want. In the preterite, this verb can also mean to try. We know it means to want, but it can also mean to try. So, quise, I wanted or I tried. Quisiste, you wanted or you tried. Quiso, he or she wanted or he or she tried. Quisimos, we wanted or we tried. Quisieron, they wanted or they tried. Okay? So notice all those verbs we just looked at. Okay, hacer, venir, and querer. You can group these together and call the I verbs. Why? Because they all have an I in their preterite stem. So try to group these together as we go through, right? So you have the I verbs, hacer, venir, and querer. They all have an I in their stem in the preterite tense. Let's move on. Poder, which means to be able to. Pude, I was able to. Pudiste, you were able to. Pudo, he or she was able to. Pudimos, we were able to. And pudieron, they were able to. Okay? Poner, to put. Puse, I put or I placed. Pusiste, you put or placed. Puso, he or she put or placed. Pusimos, we put or placed. And pusieron, they put or they placed. Saber, which means to know, facts, information, how to do something. Supe, I knew. Supiste, you knew. Supo, he or she knew. Supimos, we knew. And supieron, they knew. Again, pause the video if you need más tiempo. So notice those were the you verbs, poder, poner, and saber. Okay, so we had the I verbs. These are the you verbs. Why are they called this? Because all the above verbs, poder, poner, and saber, have you in their preterite stem. So you can group these together and call them the you verbs. Moving on. Andar, to wander or to walk around. Anduve, I walked. Anduviste, you walked or wandered. Anduvo, he or she walked. Anduvimos, we walked. And anduvieron, they walked. Tener, to have. You'll already know how to do this one, but just so you can clarify, I'll scroll through these pretty quickly. If you need más tiempo, again, just pause the video, but you should already have these in your notes. Okay, estar, same thing. You should already have this one in your notes, but again, rewrite them down if you do not, or if you just want to keep them all together, I would rewrite it. So those were the UV verbs, andar, tener, and estar. You can group together and call the UV verbs because in their stem, they all have UV. And again, if you don't remember, go take a look back. Okay, so this is an acronym that I created in order to help you remember all of the the irregular verbs in the preterite tense. If you can think of a better acronym to help yourself, that's totally fine. Go with it. This is one that I came up with called QPA's Hat Vids. QPA's Hat Vids. So think of QPA as like a name. Like QPA has hat videos. Vids would be shortened for videos. QPA's Hat Vids. So this guy, QPA, has multiple vids about hats. Okay, so why am I giving you this acronym? Each of these letters are going to stand for an irregular verb in the preterite tense. Okay, so let's take a look at it in más detalle. You have the Q, querer, which is to want, poner or poder for the P, estar for the E, saber for the S, and that would be QPA's, the name. QPA's for hat, we have hacer, andar, and tener. And then for vids, we have venir and ver, ir, dar, and ser. QPA's hat vids. So this little acronym, if it helps you, will help you remember each of the verbs that are irregular in the preterite tense. And then keep in mind too, group some of these together, the I verbs, the UV verbs, the U verbs. Group them together just like we had talked about. And my last final thought would be, as you're memorizing these verbs and how to conjugate them, the list right here are ones that I really want you to know in regards to memorizing first. So before you memorize the others, memorize these. These are ones you're going to use a lot, especially hacer, and dar, and a lot of these. So memorize these and their conjugations, okay? All right, some of these you should already know how to do, like tener and dar and some estar and a few others, ir and ser. So some of these you should already really be familiar with. If you're not, take a look at your notas, okay, relook at it, review them. Okay, for the rest of these, make sure you memorize them. Memorize the above list right here first and then move on from there, as we'll be using these in conversations and such. But that is all for este video. Gracias por escucharme y chao.